Hi everyone and welcome to this session of the online distilling conference. Today we're talking about branding for success, and we've got Richard Horwell here from Brand Relations. It's brandrelations.co.uk, so you can check out the website as well, but of course after you've watched this. Hello to you, Richard.
Yeah, hi there. Okay, yes, I own Brand Relations. I've had it for like 13 years. We've been behind over 100 brands, both soft drinks and alcoholic drinks. I personally owned an alcoholic drink of my own that I had for about 4 or 5 years, and then sold it a couple of years ago to a Dutch billionaire. I guess after 100 brands, we've got to know the business quite well. And we do pretty much everything, helping people with recipe development. People come in to see us with an idea, and we'll construct the idea so that we deal with it like it's our own, but we construct an idea so that it's got the best chance of success. We're constantly on the market research, seeing where the market's going, what's happening with brands, what's happening with people's palates and changes. And the last 12 months, I have to say, has been our busiest ever, because a lot of people sitting at home going, I don't want to do my job anymore. I want to be an entrepreneur. Especially the younger people that come into this world, they don't want to go and work for the post office anymore. And so we've had a lot of people coming in doing some really innovative, interesting ideas. If it's a bad idea, we send them packing, but if it's got a good chance of success, then we'll help them create something in magic, because it's quite a busy sector, as you probably know. There's a lot of things coming out, and sometimes it's very hard to stand out from the crowd, but we do our best to help them. And one of the most important things for people are never going to taste your drink unless they pick it up off the shelf. So branding is the most important thing. That if something screams "buy me," you're going to like this, buy me. And so a lot of people get that wrong. They don't make the time and effort to understand who their consumer is and what turns their consumer on and what makes them pick that bottle off the shelf as opposed to the millions of others.
Yeah, I mean, and you're quite right. It has, even spirits in general, there's more and more distilleries opening up. Used to be a case that someone might just buy your product just because it was local, but that's not enough anymore, because there might be 2 or 3 different local producers. It was interesting what you're saying about the impetus that to pick up that bottle and buy it and try it, because I know certainly from a lot of the work that I do, we spend a lot of time on the recipe development side of things, but that's kind of more second bottle than first bottle, right? It's the brand for the first bottle. So I mean, that suggests then that actually you got to spend some time thinking about the brand. It's an important thing to spend your time thinking about.
A lot of people rush into these things too quickly. Their granny likes it, and mum and dad say, yeah, well done, little boy, go off and do it, or little girl, or whatever it is. But the most important thing I say to people time and time again, and the first thing that we do when someone comes through the door with an idea, is to do the market research and see what's gone on around the world, to see what other people have done. Maybe it's in Chile or Peru you were talking about, just different places around the world. You can get ideas of what ingredients they've used, or what messaging they've used, or what audience they're trying to attract. So the most important thing with Google now, it's just so simple. I mean, yes, there's different research places that you can pay for, but at the end of the day, there's Google, and you can find out all these brands and what they're doing, and ones that have been successful and ones that have failed. One of the most, what I'd say time and time again, the most expensive word in our industry is education. If you have to educate somebody about your brand, then you're going to fail. The best way to do that is on the bottle. So when people look at it and they understand, just being a gin or just being a vodka isn't enough. You've got to say why you're different to the bottle next to you. And that is about education. And so this is all part of the branding, that when people look at it, they want to understand it. They don't want to say, oh, I don't get that, or I don't, you want to have a positive effect where people go, oh yeah, I understand that. And this is what we base a lot of our research on, looking at what other people have done, and obviously our experience over these years with all these brands. We know what works and what doesn't work.
So, I mean, often when you think about brands, you kind of think of like this identity, and almost, for want of a better term, like kind of like the story and the romance behind something. But it almost sounds like it's not just about that. There is a communication aspect to it. So to take a gin as an example, if you've got a load of gins on the shelf, but one of them happens to describe it as bright and floral or bright and citrus or something, that seems to communicate quite quickly why this might be slightly different to a different one. It's talking about the flavor as well.
Well, one of the things that I think everyone in this industry is going to be quite shocked with soon, and I'm tipping it to happen, is that we're going to have to start with this obesity situation happening. Is that we're going to have nutritionals on the bottle, where people are going to see the sugar levels, and they're going to be horrified. So there's a lot of gins and products out there that are selling that have got insane amounts of sugar, and that's what makes them taste nice. And when you go to a cocktail bar and you have a cocktail, you know, they have insane amounts of sugar. But with the obesity problem, and I think that they're going to introduce nutritionals on the packaging, and maybe even a sugar tax on alcohol, then this is what will change. And so a lot of those products are going to have to rethink everything, their branding, their recipe, everything, because that's what's happened in the soft drinks industry when the 5 gram per 100 ml. And I think that something similar will happen in spirits and beer and everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is inevitable. And whilst there is times to change, and you know, there's pros and cons for different bits of the business, I think ultimately it's probably I think it's fair enough to be transparent to people that are buying your product, what they are drinking, what they're consuming. I think that's just reasonable.
I think the hard seltzer market is quite an interesting example, because all of a sudden these products coming on the market that are healthy ingredients, declaring the calories, and you know, so this is the new audience, and I think people have got to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
They've got to start thinking that, you know, people are going to be worried about what calories are per shot, and you know, and how much sugar they're putting in their system, and if you don't even have to declare preservatives and stuff like that into alcohol, whereas all of that's going to come out. It's going to be clean labeling.
Yeah, you know, you've got artificial sweetener in there or something like that, and if you're allergic to it, there's certainly things that I've had to deal with. And
yeah, eat numbers and everything.
Yeah, you have no idea, so you just say, I just can't buy it. Then it's not there. So yeah, I personally, that's something that I would welcome as well. So going a bit more onto the brand, let's say that you've got a good idea, and let's, for argument's sake, say that you've also got the quality of your product is good as well. What is the thing that makes a good brand that will engage with people? Is it talking about people? Is it talking about place or history? Because I see so many different things, and some of them kind of I think are quite interesting, and some of them I kind of think, who cares?
Yeah, a lot of people, it comes from their ego, and that's a big mistake. I've seen so many brands out there where they, you know, a new brand comes into the market and they splatter the name of the brand across the bottle, thinking people will pick it up like it's Coca-Cola. They won't. People will look at something, what's in it for me? You know, why should I buy this? I don't give a damn about the name. You know, why should I buy this product? What is different to anything else that's out there? And one of the words we use quite a lot is provenance. And when we do research and we look at where the idea came from, we just did a nettle drink, a drink based on stinging nettles, and it was 2 chemists that, you know, wanted to come up with the idea, and that, you know, we've kind of made them as the headline of the brand, you know, because they're obviously I mean, that's just an example, but when you look at the provenance of something as to where it comes from, we're doing some mixers for a large farm owner. And so, you know, he's doing everything recycled, and he's doing everything, ticking all the boxes. So, you know, something like that, we have to utilize the provenance. There must be something that comes into the brand that helps people understand why you're different to the rest of the bottles on the shelf.
And for a lot of small distillers, a lot of when they're starting off, it's a face-to-face kind of thing. It might be at farmers markets, and it's more of a personal interaction with people. When you're starting like that, does that make a difference on the brand, or is it, you know, you need to be thinking far in advance when you're moving past doing that person-to-person individual?
If you're doing that and you're thinking like that, you will always be like that. It'll always be a hobby, right? If you don't think big picture, it's always going to be a hobby.
Okay,
right? Well, there are a lot of people that, you know, it never goes beyond that. Yeah,
excellent. That's great. Thank you. So we have the branding when you're starting off, and okay, sometimes you might get it wrong, but when you're starting with a brand, right? Not you personally, but a individual. Do you have to get it right the first time, or if you don't get it right the first time, are you doomed?
Well, we very much what we do. We don't do farmers markets or anything like that. So I guess that's a good way of experiencing and getting feedback from people. One thing I will say that and this is really important when you launch a new brand, giving product away for free doesn't teach you anything, right? People are going to tell you how wonderful it is and it's great it is. You make them pay for it, you'll get the truth, right? So, you know, bear that in mind. Never give stuff away, especially alcohol, when you're giving away HMRC money. But if you're going to go into mainstream and try to hit the supermarkets or off licenses or whatever stuff like that, yeah, you don't get too many chances at it. You've got to pretty well get it right the first time. And that's why it's really important to think about your brand and think about where you want to be. And the most important thing is to know who your consumer is. You know, I have people come in here and say, oh, yes, you know, we think our consumer's a 25-year-old, but my granny likes it. You can't target an audience like that. You've got to know what your type of consumer is going to go for that product. And you understand, you know, what type of, I mean, at the moment, the gym market's quite young. You know, it's sort of 25 plus, and, you know, it's, whereas, you know, 20 years ago, it was granny, wasn't it? You know, it was very much an old drink. You know, mum and dad have a gin and tonic at the end of the day. So, you know, you've got to understand who your consumer is, and you've got to target them properly.
One of the things I've noticed in gin, particularly like maybe in the last 15, 20 years, is there does seem to be less brand loyalty than there once was. You don't get the, I'm a Beefeater drinker, my father was a Beefeater drinker, his father was a Beefeater drinker. As good a gin as it is, we see people having more than one gin at home. They'll have maybe 7 or 8 different gins at home, and they might keep some gins for best for special occasions and things like that. Does that impact how you might approach branding now?
We call those people the new adopters, right? Yeah. You're not going to change the fact that that the benefits of a new adopter is they'll try your product. The negative thing is there won't be any loyalty. So I mean, social media is it helps that a lot. Encouraging, you know, one person encouraging another to try a product. So social media is very, very important in that. But you're never going to change the fact that new adopters are going to switch to other products. So one of the most important things in this is the same in soft drinks as well as alcohol, whatever, is innovation. You know, you've got to keep ahead of the game. So you've got to keep, you know, just sitting and having the same Beefeater gin in 30 or 40 years time doesn't work anymore. You've got to keep innovating and looking at new ideas or expanding your horizons into, no, not just doing a cherry flavor or something like that, but just, you know, trying to be more innovative, trying to just, you know, constantly looking where the market's going, what your competition's doing. And as soon as you stop doing that, then you'll go out of business because these new adopters will move on.
Mm. Yeah, something that I've certainly seen. You'll see some gin distilleries, they'll release one product and then they don't really do very much else. And they made a big splash when they started off, and then you don't really hear anything from them. Whereas people that might do 1 or 2 limited or new releases, like that's keeping their fan base excited. You know, someone like Herno or Four Pillars, anytime they release a new product, people are generally really excited about.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming out.
Exactly, and that rolls over to the original product.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got to be innovative and you've got to be active.
Brilliant, thank you. So you've got the original brand, but at some point you might think, it's looking a bit stale. The rebrand, which we do see people do, but like, how do you know when it's time for a rebrand?
Well, sales will probably tell you that. When sales start diminishing, you know it's time for a rebrand. I don't think there's a lot behind that. I mean, and also people switch. As I said, they're new adopters. They'll switch. You know, they won't be loyal to your brand, so they'll switch to the next one that comes along. So I don't think, you know, again, branding is like a recipe. It's not forever.
Yeah,
you've got to make it more exciting, and things are changing so much. I mean, 2 years ago, if we thought we'd be in the position we are now, I mean, where spirits actually outsold wine in a retail environment, you know, I mean, what does that say? You know, we lost the hospitality industry, but you gained it from the supermarkets and wine stores and stuff, and home delivery. You know, these are things that we never considered 2 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And going on the rebranding point, I mean, sometimes people go for a new bottle. So it's like, if you wanted to kind of spice things up a bit and, you know, continue to innovate, do you have to do a full rebrand, or can just having a new bottle, maybe going from a stock bottle to a bespoke or something like that, does that?
We spoke about this earlier, and when you're a new product starting up, you don't have any choice but to take the bottles that you're given. So quite often, if you go along to a distiller or something like that, you know, you don't have the ability to purchase the volume that they do. So you have to take the bottle that comes along. As you become successful and you invest some of your profit into marketing, then maybe you could do your own mold or something like that. But one of the things that we spoke about before we went on air was the fact that the most expensive part of a spirit is the bottle. So, the rest of the money is duty. So, the ingredients don't cost very much. So, spend a bit of money on the bottle, because it doesn't really boost the price so much. But people want to buy something that looks premium at a realistic price. So, you need to look premium, and a bottle does that.
And for anyone that's like giving something as a gift or something like that, I think that's
Exactly, yeah.
there might have been a time if you gave someone a bottle of spirits as a gift, unless it was like a very nice old single malt, they might have thought, well, what's this person trying to say to me? But that's gone now. You can be a connoisseur of spirits. You're not just a drinker. You
It's a bit like buying your mum a cookbook.
Great. All right. Well, this has been absolutely superb. I've got one other question I wanted to ask, because it's something that does come up a lot, particularly with new distillers, because we get distillers that they might not just be making gin, they might make rum, they might make whiskey, and it's this question of, how do you decide whether you want to be a brand house that is the same brand across all of the spirits, or whether you want to be a house of brands, so that you have like your gin is this particular name and then the whiskey is something else, and actually seeing them side by side, you never know that they were made by the same person.
I'm very much a believer that you should look like you're in the same family. You can have a different father, but you've got to look like you're in the same family. You know what I mean? So I'm a firm believer in that, because people are more, if they're looking for rum and they trust your gin, they're more likely to go for something that's in the same family. So when you're building brand loyalty, it can be across a few spirits, because people don't just drink gin, they drink other spirits as well. So they'll look at something and go, yeah, I like their gin, so I'll buy their rum, or I'll buy their vodka, or whatever. So yes, I think it needs to look like it's the same family.
Great. That's a fantastic answer. Thank you very much. Was there any other final points you wanted to say to our audience before we go?
I appreciate you doing this, and I suggest that I've done a lot of interviews that I think you've seen on my blogs, and whether you want to do business with us or not is not the point, but please go and read some of the blogs on our website, because we've spent a lot of time doing that, and there's more and more stuff coming on a regular basis just about everything about the startups and the pitfalls and the shortcuts.
Yeah, there's definitely some really a great resource there, so worth checking out. It is brandrelations.co.uk. Thank you, Richard, so much. Good to see you. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.